BigFooty Blues. BigFooty Blues. BigFooty Blues. Come on, the BigFooty Blues.
Welcome to the BigFooty Blues podcast 2014 National Draft Edition. I'm ODN. Joining me tonight, it's a full cast and they are full of opinions. We have ShanDog.
Taste the rainbow, bitches!
Happy Dude.
Yeah, I'm here.
MEB.
Hi, guys.
And our draft guru, HBF.
Evening, everybody.
Good to have you all here. This is a full cast. We must have missed talking to each other or something.
For sure.
I miss you guys.
Yeah, look, National Draft, it's been run and won tonight. I think we'll just we'll launch straight into Carlton's picks. I was actually at the draft tonight, folks, by the way, at the Gold Coast Convention Centre. And, I just saw James Hird, obviously pumped full of, what is that, melatonin stuff? But,
Which side effect did you notice?
Well, I did get poked in my hip as I walked past him. But
as a spectator at the draft, would you say there was not enough fluff, the right amount of fluff, or too much fluff?
I wasn't really looking at the players' girlfriends, but there was sorry. It actually ran quite quickly and fairly fast. So there wasn't too much. Obviously, the top 10 drags on a fair bit because they want to show highlights and do the whole jumper presentation thing. And you actually see the players standing at one end of the stage, and the coaches will rush up with a jumper at the other end of the stage, and they've got to stand there until some guy tells them when to walk. So it's not as natural as they're obviously just following their TV prompts and stuff like that. But not a lot of fluff. They just flew through it. I couldn't even keep up. I was trying to write things down and I couldn't keep up. So.
Would you go again or just watch it on telly?
Just watch it on TV. I think it's probably. It was only because I decided to do. I decided to look at our players. I guess the top 30, top 40 in depth this year. And watch a fair few videos and stuff. So I thought, I'm going to kind of know the players that we pick. So that was the only reason I went, just to see if there was, and maybe seeing if you can catch the eye of a couple of the Carlton people. But they go in through a separate door. You don't really get a chance to mingle or mix with them. So, but it was interesting to see how it worked. So
Cool.
As a once-off, I recommend it. Pick 19, folks, was Carlton's first pick in the draft. Obviously, everybody knows we traded our pick 7 for pick 19, Christian Jack and Mark Wiley. And there's been a fair bit of discussion around that point in the past, as people listening to our last podcast would have known. In the end, with pick 19, we've gone with Blaine Boekhorst. HBF, what can you tell us about him?
Oh, look, I'll be honest with you right off the bat. I haven't seen a lot of Boekhorst this year. I only really discovered him not that long ago when I started reading about him. What I can tell everyone is that he's got amazing speed, a very good sidestep, which he, in his highlights, which are on AFL.com, he actually sidestepped around someone and his opponent actually fell over. That was how quick his sidestep was. Just amazing speed. Uses the ball really well. It's hard for me to comment because I've really only seen kids in the TAC this year, so I'm really only going off sort of what I've read and what I've seen on the highlights package. But look, he looks good. He's 21, so I'd anticipate that he'd play at some stage next year. He's going to have to put a little bit of weight on. He's very slight, but I can see him and Yaron creating a bit of havoc on a wing each next year. I guess I was a little bit disappointed that we overlooked Laverde. As everyone knows, I've been a big rapper of him all year, so I'm not really sure what the knock on Laverde was that he got actually to 20. But look, I trust the club, and yeah, let's see how Boekhorst goes next year.
Yeah, there's a little bit of feeling there that we reached a fair bit, and people wondering, he's 21 years of age. Where's he been the last 3 years? Why hasn't he made it until now? He's
actually got a volleyball background, of all things. So
super helpful.
It would be helpful in international rules. You could spike it into the goals.
Actually, good point. I like that. I look forward to his Guernsey for the international
Well,
rules.
hopefully he gets into the AA squad, because that's the only way he's getting a call up to the international rules these days.
Minor step. That's all right.
Oh, just the major criteria for selection is a minor roadblock.
Again, what I've been told, I believe 2014 was his first real proper year dedicated to footy. So again, from what I've seen and what I've heard, that the club just must rate him. So unfortunately, I can't give you a lot on him because I just haven't seen him.
His video highlights are impressive. Is he wearing a top bun, like a top knot?
Oh, it's worse than Hurley.
Yeah, I think he's got a Brody Grundy sort of style there. So
yeah, a Hurley Grundy hybrid. It's 5 times worse than you would imagine it is.
So he's up against it, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's not off on the right foot with me.
We have to get Gibbsy to take him down to the hairdressers.
That must be why Papa Homer wasn't excited by the selection. Because he always says he's like, get a real haircut whenever he sees like prize kids and stuff. So that's probably why he's not a fan of Boki.
I must say I feel a little bit better about it hearing that HBF that he really hasn't played much football. I thought he had been floating around for a few years and not really excelled until now, but he's playing for Swan Districts, so he's playing against men. He is light, so at 21 he needs to bulk up a fair bit, but he's playing against men and he's actually making them look a bit silly.
I was just going to add with that, in that highlights as well, his ability to get out of traffic is quite amazing. Actually, there was a goal that he kicked that he actually gathered the ball on the wing and just basically took on everyone. Cleared out and kicked it from probably 45 on the run. So if anyone actually hasn't seen his highlights yet, I would definitely recommend having a look at them because it's about 4 minutes of footy porn, to be honest. It's pretty good.
Okay.
So Carlton are obviously after outside mids. We need that run and carry through the midfield on the outside. Would you have thought that Laverde would have filled that role better than Boekhorst?
Well, I mean, Laverde probably has more flexibility in that he can play all over the ground. The one thing that Boekhorst definitely has him on is speed. Whilst Laverde's not slow, he certainly doesn't have that. He certainly doesn't have that speed that Boekhorst does. So I remember Shane Rogers saying at the under-18 championships that they wanted someone with leg speed, and they've obviously just rated that above what Laverde brings to the table. So different, really, really different players, yeah.
And we have to note that others that produced a lot of outside run, like Garlett and Weller, were gone before pick 19, so they might have been in the mix, pushing Boki back a little bit, but. We said that's what we're after, and we stayed true to our word. I couldn't work out why all these fandom drafters were having us drafting tall players with our first 2 picks, and or inside mids and stuff. When clearly we have no outside run. We have none.
I think there was one fandom draft that came up that had us taking Marchbank and Lamb. There was no way not a chance that we would have taken both of those guys in the same draft. Maybe one of them, but definitely not both. I mean, as it turned out, Marchbank went at 6, and Lamb, I think, went to West Coast in the 30s. So, there was no way we'd take both of those guys. No way.
Just one note I wanted to throw out. I saw a post from ZCFC. He said his source, that's Z's source, says our whole recruiting team was unanimous in rating Boekhorst in the top 5 midfielders. So I just found that pretty interesting. So obviously they were pretty set on him. They also pulled the trigger pretty quick. As soon as it was our pick, there was no hesitation in picking him as well. So obviously they've either they've identified a brilliant smoky, or have been super ballsy about it, or it's just absolute bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, look, based on that, if they didn't rank Heaney because he was always going to Sydney, then I suppose they've got Petrarca, Brayshaw, Duggan. Damn, I'm missing one. I can't remember the other one, but and Boekhorst in there as well. So yeah, maybe that's what they've done. I mean, look, there are a couple of surprises in that first round, but yeah, as it sits now, it's probably a bit of a wait and see on Boekhorst.
Do you know what annoys me though? They need to shut down the leaks coming out of the club. Like, it's ludicrous that someone was able to tweet this afternoon, that we would take him and we would take Rainbow guy. That is stupid. That's terrible.
But it happens with all clubs.
Well, it didn't happen with Geelong, did it?
Well,
I did. No, I did read that
Cockatoo Colin. What's his name? Cockatoo?
No,
yeah.
Cockatoo.
I was keen on him too. He looked very good.
Yeah, I guess the one thing about Boekhorst is that being 21, even though he needs to put a little bit more weight on, he is going to be, closer to be ready to play than the 18-year-olds, you would think, in most cases. And we need that outside run now. Next year is a bit of a it's a bit of a wipeout unless we can push the likes of Yaron up onto the wing or something like that. And I don't know that we want to do that to rob Peter to pay Paul. Maybe Daisy Thomas can come and play on the wing more often and stuff. But talk about turn of speed. We don't have Garlett. We don't have we haven't had Eddie for the last 12 months. We've lost a lot of toe out of that side, and we've got nothing. Lucas, was probably the only true outside midfielder we had, and he just wasn't up to it. So, we're obviously thinking that we can still do something in 2015 if we can add some runs straight away.
Yeah, look, and our second pick was of that same nature as well. First two picks, we went with running players who had very good disposal. So I'm pretty happy with what the depth in the midfield is going to look like now. I mean, whether or not they were the right picks, especially Boekhorst, obviously, as our first, I'm not 100% sold yet, but that's what we said we wanted, and that's what we've got. So that's a positive.
Yeah, so our second pick at pick 28 was Dillon Viojo-Rainbow, which awesome sounding name. I actually mentioned on the BigFooty boards in the last couple of days that I'd like to get him at 28, so I'm pretty stoked.
I've got 2 Blaines and 2 Dillons. What the hell am I supposed to do with that? That's ridiculous.
They spell differently as well, I think.
Yeah, it's Dillon. That's not even how you spell Dillon.
What sort of guy with a name like Rainbow doesn't spell his first name right?
I know. It's the weirdest name I've ever seen. But whatever. I don't know anything of the player. I'm just biased against him because of his name.
I'm just waiting for the first kick to go straight over his head, and I'll just sit there being like somewhere over Rainbow.
Oh no!
No,
you are so ready to be a dad, happy dude.
Why do we recruit players that can so susceptible to dad jokes? Yeah, he was Dillon Viojo, but I think his stepfather he's pretty close to, and his last name was Rainbow, so he's added that in because his mates called him Rainbow apparently.
I drive through a town called Rainbow a fair bit, going back home to Victoria. Small bit of tidbit of information there.
That's fantastic.
Thanks, Shan.
Really
anyway, so Rainbow is a medium defender midfielder. Elite left foot kick. Oh, gotta love the left foot is.
Yeah.
And has a fairly high efficiency rate. So he's a clean and effective by hand. So he seems to have a few tools. Who wants to have a stab at? We was going to go to HBF because he knows what he's talking about.
You might as well.
Look, I've seen the Jets a few times this year, mainly because I wanted to go and see Laverde. But DVR definitely played most of the year at halfback. Even for Vic Metro, he played halfback as well. Like we've just said, he's got an elite left foot. Don't remember seeing him too many times use his right foot. So, like most lefties, very one-sided. But does kick the ball really well for a lefty. He kicks around corners really well, spots up targets. I did hear that in his under-16s, he actually played predominantly as a wingman. So he actually has played midfield in his junior career. So he's basically just pushed to half-back, because there were guys for the Jets, Duggan, Laverde and Alice, who were basically went through the midfield there. He has played midfield at the Jets. I've seen him play midfield and does all right there. So, look, I think we've got a pretty good one at 28 there. I had a look who was taken after us at 28. There was probably only maybe one or two that I was fairly keen on after that. I know Tuke Miller went the pick directly after us, who I was fairly keen on. But, yeah, again, look, pretty happy with this guy. Looks like a fairly solid citizen to me. And we could actually see him play next year, I think. Probably, first half of the year for the Northern Blues. And then, I think he could definitely play next year. And he's also good overhead, can take a good mark as well. So I think we've got a pretty good little footballer here at 28.
So you wouldn't have looked at Menadue?
I didn't. I was one of those, I don't know, sometimes I liked him, sometimes I didn't. For me, he's just too skinny. I think he's going to take too long to come along, and that sort of was confirmed. I was listening to SDN on the way home, and somebody did ring up and asked about Menadue, and Brett Anderson sort of said that he thought he'd take a few years to develop. So, yeah, look, I see the point with Menadue, but I think if I had the choice, I'd take DVR over Menadue.
Yeah. Supposedly the same weight as Boekhorst, though. It doesn't look it, but supposedly that's what they're listed as anyway.
He's genuinely 6 foot tall as well, Rainbow.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything to say about those first two picks?
As we were talking about earlier in the year, if the general feeling, which I think HBF mentioned before, and I heard other people mention before, that the draft had a definite top 5, and then 6 to 25 were all rated around the same time, and then there were a few sliders, and we had pick 19, which I'm not going to talk about the trade for pick 19, but we had pick 19, and then we missed out on sliders that would have gone higher in the draft for a guy that probably would have been there at 28. I don't agree with that. I would have gone Laverde, and then for Blaine at 28.
Well, maybe we just rate Rainbow better.
Look, there was talk.
So essentially, the two players that probably would have been available around 28, whereas we could have got one that was around it, should have gone earlier, and got the other one still at 28. Two closer to 19s is better than two closer to 28s.
I guess maybe they know something that we don't know, though, because we
I'm happy to be wrong.
A minimal amount of information about these guys, especially if you don't get to the games, which a lot of us don't have the time nor the inclination to do. But our recruiting team does get to go to these games, and they get to interview them, and they have a lot more contact with them, and so they are privy to a lot of stuff that we don't know about. So I can listen to HBF talk about it till the cows come home and regurgitate what he tells me, but I don't actually have any information to form in on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm more than happy to be wrong and for every player we draft become an absolute superstar. But right now, that's how I feel about it.
I did like watching Rainbow's interview. He seemed like he had a great head on his shoulders, and I really think that's quite an important part of being a footballer. So I can only imagine that Carlton must have interviewed Boekhorst and saw that he called for the sacking of the entire Carlton team and Mick Malthouse on Twitter and figured he's the guy we need.
Yeah,
and he's since denied that he ever sent it, by the way. So he's obviously want to character as well.
Yeah.
So-
Talking about interviewing really well, I remember a lot of people on the board saying, and even watching it myself, Kane Lucas interviewed very well.
Really?
Yeah.
What interview were they watching?
Kane Lucas was also a little bit of a slider because he was tipped to go inside the top 10, but he slid out to us, so that's why we took him. So, yeah, sliders aren't always all they're cracked up to be. There's a reason why they slide, and we had some massive sliders tonight.
This is completely off topic, but does anyone, when they think of Kane Lucas, ever think of Zoolander?
He's really, really ridiculously good looking.
Yeah, but is this a school for ants type mentality as well? You know what I mean?
So
No,
just,
okay, move on.
saying.
I didn't use those words.
What kind of podcast are we running here? All right, our third pick was pick 60, and we selected Clem Smith. He's from Perth. He's a small defender / midfielder. Breaks the game open, ferocious attack on the ball, and a bit of dash. Apparently Kevin Sheehan suggested at the time that it was one of the steals of the draft.
Based on what I've seen of him this year as well, I think it was just about the steal of the draft as well. I think he was ranked early in the year inside the top sort of 25 to 30. So I think the reason that he slid was that he's got some fitness issues. So he'll need to work on that now that he's on an AFL list. But you watch him play, and the player that immediately springs to mind is Byron Pickett. He's just ferocious at the contest, and you mentioned that he's a small defender and midfielder ODN, but he can also go forward. He knows where the goals are. So I think we've probably got almost like a small utility on our hands. So, and again, like Boekhorst and DVR, he can actually kick the footy well. So, yeah, I would say as it stands right now, I think we've just about got the steal of the draft with him at 60.
I quite like the idea. There was some WA fans, somebody from Fremantle or West Coast supporter who came on and said that was he's an excellent player, and you can see some Ballantyne versus Smith clashes coming up in the future. And I like the idea that he can play as a small defender, because we don't really we haven't had a decent small defender for a long time. Sorry, Mr. Carlton, about Aaron Joseph, but we've been crying out for somebody like that. And if he's playing like Byron Pickett, but he can actually play, say, in a back pocket on a small, like Ballantyne or something like that, and go forward and go in the midfield, because we too often we have those sort of players who can't run through the midfield. But if you can do all of that, it sounds fantastic. Can't wait for him to get into shape.
Yeah, he kind of seems like he's an understudy or just a backup depth player for Dillon Buckley. That's the same sort of role that most people see Bucks playing as well. So it seems to me, again, it's going on with this theme. It looks like we've just added depth everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, he's got a bit of dash. I mean, we had a checklist before we went into trade week. We wanted a tall, a key position player. We got that player. We wanted another inside mid. We got that player. We want to add outside run, and we've done that in spades through this draft.
Yep.
If they all make it. So it's pretty good to have a list to work of, and it seems maybe we haven't gone best available. I know we'll claim we have, but we've gone close enough to best available, but address needs at the same time, and that's I think we needed to take a couple of drafts to address needs in the right way.
Yep.
So rather than wait until all our stocks are depleted, like we did with Talls a few years ago when we picked up Watson, McCarthy, and Mitchell, bang 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 like that, and McInnes, just because we had run out of Talls, we seem to have got them in reasonable draft picks, and done a fair bit of due diligence on these players. So I'm pretty happy that our list balance is looking a bit better.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find too many people who will argue that our lists coming into say, this pre-season was unbalanced, both in age and the missing depth and decent players in certain positions as well. And it looks like we're trying to fix that, which I think is the platform that every club should use to then launch their next premiership attack on, I guess. You need to have the right mix of players, ages, positions, all that sort of thing. And we can go from here, use the trade, and use free agency to fix up anything that we need to from here.
Yeah. So our fourth and final pick of the night at pick 63 was Jayden Foster. He's a tall forward. His profile says he's 194. I'm sure tonight at the draft they said he was 197 centimetres, which is quite handy. And certain posters will like the fact that he's over 196. Now, so Foster he's the son of former Bulldogs player Peter Foster, and they didn't take him, nominate him as a father-son pick. I do note that Reece McKenzie was still available at the time we took Foster. HBF, what did you think of that pick?
Well, I must admit, when Carlton essentially had two picks in a row, because the two middle picks between Clem Smith and now Foster were academy and father-son players, so I knew I had two in a row. So once Smith had been read out, I must admit I was kind of hoping for Reece McKenzie to come in. But look, Jayden Foster pretty much offers us more or less the same thing as what McKenzie does. Probably a little bit rawer than McKenzie, I think. But look, he can take a really nice mark, really nice left foot. He's actually a 19-year-old, and he kicked, I think, about 49 goals in 16 matches for Calder this year. So he's averaged 3 goals a game, which is not bad. So look, he's probably someone we can just develop with the Northern Blues for a few years, not put too much pressure on him. And again, look, I was listening to Brett Anderson on SEN coming home, and he thought that the Bulldogs overlooking him as a father-son could actually come back and bite them on the bum. So, I mean, look, who's to say that us not selecting McKenzie might not come back and bite us as well? But look, I think the club obviously saw something in him that they ranked above McKenzie. But look, again, I can only go by what I've seen, and he looks pretty good. So put him away, develop him for a few years, and let's see how he feels out over the next few years. Did he drop because he had stress fractures in his foot and he missed a bit of footy last season? Possibly. I mean, looking on the boards, he wasn't ever really ranked overly highly, so I think he probably went where he was supposed to go. I think with McKenzie, I think he fell because he had a basketball background and probably didn't sort of play a lot of footy. You're probably splitting hairs between those two, but all I can go on is what I've seen, and I think it's not a bad decision by the club.
Yeah. I'm looking at Jayden Foster's draft profile on the AFL site, and it says that he's 44 years of age, so that might be why he was only a late pick.
Oh, no. Damn these mature age recruits.
There was some hope there for Tony Lynn 15 after all. You've only yet nominated. Any other names that you thought slid further that we might have looked at? I saw Kafka, for example. People were talking about him a fair bit, and he's fallen to 66.
Yeah, that was a long way.
Yeah, we know that Tom Lamb fell to 32. I was wondering if he was going to make it all the way to 60 for a while.
He always seemed like a gamble, though, as well. So I guess it's not that surprising.
Yeah, and some names that people were hoping would get drafted, like Caleb Daniel, taken in 46, and Oscar McDonald fell a long way.
Yeah, personally, I was really hoping that Cockatoo would fall But I did read today before the draft that journos were saying Geelong were into him, and I was hoping that was wrong, but obviously they were right, because looking at his highlights and reading about him, he really seemed like Yaron Mark II. I mean, who wouldn't want 2 Yarons in the team? So unfortunately, Geelong snapped him up.
I think the one to me that was a surprise, and he didn't even get drafted tonight, was Tyler Keidel from WA. He's a genuine 194 centimetre that can play at either end. That's got that I thought would probably go top 40. I thought so. I'm not sure what's happened there, whether he didn't test very well at the combine or something, but I think he might be one to keep an eye out on in the rookie draft.
Yeah, so looking forward to that rookie draft, because there's always a few that miss out altogether, a few surprises. Yep. So, which club did the best?
I thought Gold Coast did really well. Unfortunately, I don't have the list here in front of me, but I thought they cleaned up. I know I think they ended up with Wright, Tuke Miller, and I know there's one other that they got as well. It's just eluded me for the
Garlett.
Oh, Garlett, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, so Wright, Miller, and Garlett. I reckon they've just about cleaned up. Oh, look, I mean, Melbourne did well as well, but I mean, so they should have with the picks they had. But yeah, Gold Coast, I thought probably did the best out of most of the clubs. As much as I hate to say it, I think Richmond did well as well. So, although Corey Ellis, I think, went a bit high for me, but
yeah, I think even worse to admit is I think Essendon, considering they had to trade into where they got the picks from, they had 17 and 20 and got Langford and Laverde. I think that was, all things considered, pretty impressive.
It was a bit amusing. My father's a Richmond supporter, and we were there together tonight. And Richmond took an age to make their first few selections, and I could see them down below me, and I think they were actually doing an eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Rock, paper, scissors.
and saying, I don't know, you go, you say something, pick a name. So I'm pretty sure that's what was happening. I may be wrong. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on Richmond and their recruiting ability, but damn amusing. All right. I also remember looking down the GWS table and looking at that handsome devil, Stephen Silvani, going, draft's over, mate. Draft's over. Off. Come home.
Take that shirt off. Put a Carlton one on.
Exactly.
Paint me like one of your French girls.
Okay.
I have no idea what that means. Was it? And HBF, the correct answer as to which club did the best, it was obviously Carlton. 4 200-game plus players in one night is a pretty good effort.
Oh,
absolutely.
If only. Yeah, very, very good effort, Carlton. Triple premiership players too, for us.
Yep. I'm glad you put that caveat on there as well. For us.
Yeah. For us.
Because we don't want them to, piss off a couple of years in and go be triple premiership players somewhere else.
No. All right, I think that about wraps it up. That's a fairly good synopsis. Thank God HBF was here to steer us all straight. I'm cautiously optimistic about our draft tonight, and I think we've addressed needs, and so we've done what we set out to do. So that's a good thing. Until next time, which will probably be after the rookie draft, I'd say, or the Wookiee draft if he's here.
Far out.
Thanks very much, ShanDog.
Thank you. Go Blues.
Happy dude.
Try to disconnect me now.
I've been trying. We can always get you back on the boards. That's fine. HBF.
Good night, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
And MEB.
Bye.
Until the rookie draft. See you on the boards. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.